Hello students, I am Raman Gupta from Government College Bara, and in this video we will study the play The Silver Box, written by John Galsworthy. As you know, this is prescribed in our syllabus for detailed study. So let's start. The Silver Box is a three-act comedy, the first play by English writer John Galsworthy. It was originally produced in London in 1906 and attracted much attention. In New York, it was first seen in 1907. In the play, the disappearance of a cigarette box, which is actually the silver box, leads to a comparison of the behavior of the son of a prosperous politician with that of an unemployed man, and the exposure of attitudes of different social classes. So, this is about a silver box, which was actually a cigarette box, and the story is about the disappearance of that box. So, let's see about the history. Galsworthy said that his aim was to create such an illusion of actual life passing on the stage as to compel the spectator to pass through an experience of his own, to think and talk and move with the people he sees, thinking and talking and moving in front of him. The silver box was first produced on 25th September 1906 at the Royal Court Theatre in London. Students, this question can be asked in a short answer type questions, that on which date and in which year it was displayed or it was shown, and at where it was shown. So the answer is on 25th September 1906 at the Royal Court Theatre in London. The play was among several new plays at this theatre from 1904 to 1907, directed by J.E. Vendren and Harley Grenville Barker, by notable dramatists including George Bernard Shaw. Although the silver box did not draw large audiences, it was much discussed. It did not remain very popular, but it was discussed among the people. So the next point of discussion is the act wise and scene wise story or plot. So in act first, scene first, the three scenes of the first act take place in the London dining room of John Barthwick, a Liberal Member of Parliament. Jack Barthwick, son of the family, comes home at night drunk, carrying a lady's reticule handbag. Jones, whose wife is the chairwoman for the Barthwicks, has helped him to unlock the door and is given a drink by Jack. Jack falls asleep on the sofa. Jones takes a purse that has fallen from the reticule and a silver box, a cigarette box, and leaves. So these were the major events of the act first, scene first. Now in the next scene, next morning, Jack is still on the sofa. He was lying still on that sofa while Mrs. Jones is cleaning the room. She talks to Wheeler, the housemaid, and to Marlowe, the butler, about her husband. He is out of work and is violent when he is drunk. Marlowe notices that the cigarette box is missing. Now, the actual incident around which the whole play revolves starts here or takes place here, and which was about the missing of cigarette box. And in the next scene, John Barthwick and his wife, having breakfast, talk about politics. She is alarmed on reading in the newspaper that a Labour candidate has won a by election, but he says that all parties should be represented. An unknown lady calls. She is the young lady from whom Jack met last evening. She is anxious to have her purse back to pay the rent. Jack finds that there is no purse in the reticule and denies having it. Barthwick reluctantly gives the lady some money and talks severely to Jack after she leaves. Marlowe informs Barthwick that the cigarette box is missing. There is a suspicion that Mrs. Jones stole it. Now, the suspicion goes to Mrs. Jones. Barthwick interviews Mrs. Jones and learns of her troubled domestic situation. She knows nothing about the missing cigarette box. And in next act second, scene first. In the John's lodgings, John complains to his wife that he is badly treated when he tries to find work. She says that they have to pay the rent today. When the landlady comes for the rent, John unexpectedly throws his wife a sovereign to pay it. Mrs. Jones is appalled to find he has a purse and the missing cigarette box. John says, I am no thief. I am no worse than what that young Barthwick is. He brought home that purse I picked up, a lady's purse, and it off. Had it off 4 in a row. Kept saying they scored over off. Well, I scored am off, and do you think anything will happen to him? Snow. A detective enters and finds the cigarette box he is looking for. He assumes Mrs. John stole it and arrests her. John, saying he took the box himself, attacks Snow, and a policeman comes in to overpower Jones. In the next scene, second, in the Barthwick's dining room that evening, Mr. and Mrs. Barthwick and Jack are having dessert. Snow comes in. His report that Jones says he took the box when he was Latin by a drunken Jack, and that Jones had the purse causes dismay and embarrassment. Snow says Jones should be prosecuted. Barthwick says as he looks gloomily at Jack, this prosecution goes very much against the grain with me. I have great sympathy with the poor. In my position, I am bound to recognize the distress there is amongst them. So these are the original lines from the text. Roper, Barthwick's lawyer, wants to know how to present the case in the police court. Mrs. Barthwick believes that Jack's involvement is an invention of John's. Jack is unwilling to appear in court. Barthwick is anxious that the details should not get into the papers. In the next act, or the last act, in the police court, Mrs. Jones says she was shocked that her husband had the box. John says he helped young Mr. Bathwick to unlock the door and that Jack said to him, "You look like one of these before socialists. Take whatever you like." John says he took the box out of spite. Jack, questioned by Roper, says he does not remember Jones letting him in. Barthwick does not press charges and Mrs. Jones is discharged. Jones, who has pleaded guilty to stealing the box and assaulting the police, is told that being drunk is no excuse and is given 1 month in prison. So he was imprisoned for 1 month. As he leaves, he shouts resentfully at Jack, who took the purse while drunk but has not got into trouble with the law. So, these were the major incidents of the play The Silver Box. So, I hope you have got the play, we have got the plot. If you find any problem, I will discuss those things in the coming video if you want. I hope you would like it. Thank you and have a nice day.